Second and third grade students at Grant Elementary in Lakewood, Ohio, and their teacher, Miss Dina Bluemel, brought history to life as they took a walk through time. With the help of Miss Mazie Adams, Executive Director of the Lakewood Historical Society, the students researched the history of the Detroit and Warren intersection, looked at maps, created timelines, interviewed Lakewood residents, visited historic sites, and selected historic photographs. Originally a Native American trail that led all the way to Detroit, Michigan, Detroit Avenue has served as the main road through Rockport Township, now Lakewood, for many years. Because the unpaved road was difficult to travel on, Lakewood residents built a plank road along Detroit in 1849. The wooden planks laid on the road and smoothed with mud and packed dirt made it easier for horses and wagons to travel to market. Detroit became a free road in 1901. Later, streetcars ran on Detroit until 1951.
I still wish they had streetcars today. There's nothing like hearing that ding, 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 ding when it came to a stop or start.
I like the streetcar. I think it's too bad we lost it. And they also were electric, so they didn't pollute like the buses.
There was this little coal stove on the streetcars. And in the wintertime, it was neat if you could sit next to the coal stove. Because there were two doors, and then in between the two doors was the change box where you put your money in. And then right across from that, so that the conductor would be warm, was the little coal stove.
At the northeast corner of Detroit and Warren was the toll house, where travelers stopped to pay the toll. 5 cents for a horse, 10 cents for a team, and 15 cents for a double team. After Detroit became a free road, the toll house eventually was moved to Cook Avenue. In 1932, the northeast corner was the second location of Geiger's, a popular clothing and sporting goods store. Later, the store moved a little to the east in its current location. Now at the northeast corner of Detroit and Warren is Normile Insurance.
The Lakewood Market stood on the northwest corner for many years. Services of the Lakewood Presbyterian Church met on the second floor of the Lakewood Market for 3 years. Several businesses moved onto this corner, including First Geyser's Carson Clothing Store and Marshall's Drug Store. The First Federal Bank renovated and moved into this building in 2003.
On the southwest corner, Jacob Tegradine ran a general merchandise store in the early 1870s. In 1884, he built a beautiful new house. Mr. Tegradine was the mayor of Lakewood from 1901 to 1902. He also served as a postmaster, trustee, and councilman. In 1910, the city of Lakewood bought the house for $15,500 and used it as the city hall until 1920. The Detroit Warren Medical Building was built 3 years later. At 5 stories, it was the tallest building in Lakewood and had the city's first elevator.
There wasn't push button. It was a turn thing. And I well remember the man who ran that elevator. He was such a nice man. And he knew everybody who came in and out, I think. He was so cheerful. My husband was a dentist, and he had his dental office there. When I worked there, I was a counselor for a community mental health center called the Center for Families and Children.
Mars and Katura Wager bought land from Detroit to Madison and Warren at Marlow for $7 per acre. They built a stone house on the southeast corner in 1837, where they raised their children. In 1888, their son Francis Wager replaced the stone house with the fancy wood house. As more people moved into Lakewood at the turn of the century, more stores and businesses grew up around the intersection. A Red Cross gas station sat in front of the Francis Wager house for many years. The Bailey's department store opened on the site in 1930. It was replaced with the Neville store in 1965 and is now an office building.
My mother worked at Bailey's. She worked in the cosmetic department at Bailey's. And she had to walk up Ethel Avenue to Detroit and get on a streetcar to go to work. The neat thing about the memories that I have of Bailey's are that they didn't have cash registers. And they had a little tube that was about that long, And when you paid your money, they would put the money in that tube and stick it in another tube, and it sucked it upstairs, and that's where the cashier was. And all the departments in all of Bailey's had those tubes in their department. And they would open up that tube when it got upstairs and take the money out, then send the change back down in the tube.
I had an aunt who worked at a store on West 25th Street called Mecca's. And when they closed, she was the buyer in the infants department. And this baby doll sat up above. So when Mecca's closed, they gave her this baby doll. And she lived in Lakewood then, and she worked at Bailey's, and she took the baby with her. And in the infants department, the baby was up there.
And I remember my mom used to put my little sister in the baby buggy, and we used to walk down to Bailey's, and if we needed anything, you know, we'd go in. And I also remember going up, I think it was the second floor, to the cashier's office, and that's where she would pay her Bailey's bill. Now that was in the days before credit cards. And what my mom used to like about it, she would go and pay on her bill, and they didn't charge interest.
When the Tagardine House became City Hall in 1910, the old barns were converted into new home of Lakewood Fire and Police departments. The police used 2 steel cages in the basements for the jail. Bicycles were used by police until 1914, when they bought their first motorcycle. In November of 1913, the Warren Road Fire Station opened. The first fire chief earned $80 per month. The fire department used this station until 1994, when they moved to the Fire Station 1 on Madison Avenue. Just south of the fire station was the water tower, which provided water for both Lakewood residents and the fire station.
They would have 2 pipes. One pipe would go to the houses for living. The other pipe would be for the fire service. And the fire service pipe would actually be lower than the water service pipe, so that the fire service would never be out of water in case they had a fire.
In 1923, after years of sharing space with the fire department, the Lakewood Police bought the old Cuyahoga Telephone and Exchange building at 1484 Warren Road for $25,000. Police headquarters were there until 1959. The Lakewood Municipal Courthouse was built south of Old Grant School in 1929. The police headquarters and courthouse were replaced by the Kirtland Apartments.
That's the bell up on top of this building. This building used to be down at the corner of Warren and Detroit. And the bell used to be up on top of the building. Somebody at the watch desk would pull a rope and ring that big bell. Or the statue that you see out front was made from a tree, and that tree is in this picture. That picture is the same as this one, the same station, only that tree that you see right there grew taller than the station, and they were going to take it down because they're going to take the station down. So they had the idea of making a statue out of it. And that's where that statue came from that tree.
In 1879, the school board constructed a one-room schoolhouse called East Rockport Central School to serve as a grade and high school. The builder charged extra to carve the name and date. This building now the home of Lakewood Recreation Department. The current Board of Education was originally the Old Grant School, built in 1899 as the first separate high school.
And I remember, like, when you first walk in that building, there was a great big huge hallway, it was kind of round.
Used to be.
Used to be?
They've built offices in that.
Oh, okay.
The second floor is still open.
But in that middle section, the atrium, I remember on May Day, at the beginning of May, they used to have a big maypole in there. And all the kids would dance the maypole dance, and I don't think the schools do that anymore. They would put a great big huge pole right in the middle, and it had colored streamers. And the kids would make a circle around the pole, and everybody had a streamer. And they would play music. I think it was like Hungarian kind of music. And we had steps to do, and you'd go in and out with the ribbons, and you couldn't let any get tangled, just because some kids would go this way, some kids would go the other way, and somehow it all turned, and the ribbon, you hung onto your ribbon. It was very colorful, very pretty.
I went to the old Grant School for kindergarten, first and second grade, and we watched them, when I was in second grade, we watched them tear up these houses down here to build this school. And then I was the first third grade class over in this new building.
I remember the floors were all really shiny when you first walked into school, and there was always like a real clean smell, kind of like, I guess it would be like a polish, and there was like not a speck of dust. They were shiny when you walked in.
A lot of wood.
Yeah, everything was
the
hardwood.
banisters,
And
the floors.
Murphy's oil soap, I think you smelled a lot in those days.
Yeah.
I remember in the warmer weather, all the windows would be wide open, and on occasion, the occasional bee or fly would. Flies were okay, but it was when a bee would fly in the classroom, and everybody would kind of be in an uproar.
When I came to Lakewood, where you now have the post office, the big post office, that was an area that was vacant. Used to be Wilson School was over there.
Wilson School served the community from 1904 to 1947, first as a high school, then as an elementary and middle school, and then as a Red Cross building. After Wilson School was torn down in 1947, Fisher Foods opened a grocery store at that site. Later, the store became Fazio's.
Where the post office now is, that was Fisher's grocery store. And I shopped there all the time. And I loved it. And they gave free dishes away for, depending on how much money you spent. If you had like a $50 bill, if you had to pay $50, you'd get a whole place setting of a very pretty pattern.
Very near Wilson School was a natural gas well, one of over 200 working in Lakewood in the early 1900s. The Warren Road branch of the U.S. Postal Service at 1435 Warren Road was built in 1935 by the Works Progress Administration. In 1988, the post office moved into the old Fazio supermarket building. Then the old post office building became a key bank. New Grant was built across Victoria from Old Grant in 1969 to serve kindergarten through 5th grade students. Modular units were constructed in a parking lot of New Grant in 2005 to accommodate Lakewood students during a district-wide building program. The Detroit and Warren intersection is the heart of Lakewood. It is where the people of Lakewood lived, worked, shopped, and went to school for almost 200 years.
It was very, very nice, very convenient. Looking back on it, you're making me remember all kinds of convenient, wonderful things living in Lakewood. There was almost everything you needed right in the Detroit-Warren area. Grocery store, bank, post office, it was all within 4 blocks. And it was a very convenient place to live and a very convenient place to raise children.
I hope it isn't still rolling.